Here is the thief. The junkie who stole our money. My brother Travis screamed, shoving me hard against the wall. He slapped the handcuffs on my wrists while my family nervously cheered. I didn't fight back. I didn't cry. I just looked him dead in the eye. You didn't catch a thief, Travis. You just kidnapped a federal agent. Before I tell you what happened when the Real police kicked down the door, drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? I want to see how far this story travels. 2 hours earlier I had walked into that underground wine cellar looking like a disaster. I wore a stained hoodie and jeans that hadn't seen a washing machine in weeks. I kept my head down, my hands shaking just enough to sell it. To my family I was Mara, 32 years old, the black sheep, the failure who couldn't hold a job. To the federal government I was a senior special agent deep into a 6-month operation. But tonight I had to be the mess they expected. The party was disgusting. It was a retirement celebration for my brother Travis, held in a rented vault lined with vintage Cabernet. The guests weren't family friends. They were men with cold eyes and bulges under their jackets, the investors in Travis's logistics empire. Travis cornered me before I could even reach the bar. He dragged me into a service alcove, his grip bruising my arm. He smelled like expensive cologne and fear. You look like trash, he hissed, checking over his shoulder. But that's perfect. That's exactly what I need. He was unraveling. I could see the pulse jumping in his neck. He told me $4.5 million was missing from his accounts. He told me the men outside were going to kill him if he didn't find a scapegoat. He needed someone to blame, someone disposable. Someone like me. I'm going to tell them you took it, he whispered, his eyes wide and manic. You're an addict. Thief. No one will question it. You go to jail for a few years, I pay for your lawyer and I stay alive. Do you understand? I whimpered and pulled away, playing my part. Travis, please, I didn't take anything. But inside my pulse was steady. He thought he was framing me. He didn't know I was the one who had drained the accounts. He didn't know that 3 days ago I had stumbled into his office, pretending to be drunk and begging for a loan. I had accidentally knocked a scalding cup of coffee onto his lap. While he was screaming at his secretary for towels, I hadn't touched his computer. I hadn't hacked a single password. I simply reached across his desk and swapped his physical RSA security token, the little key fob that generated his login codes, with a dummy replica I had in my pocket. Took 3 seconds. For the last 72 hours, every time he tried to log in, he failed. Meanwhile, I was logging in from my car, mirroring his entire hard drive. I didn't need to be a hacker. I just needed to be the clumsy, invisible sister he never respected enough to fear. You're going to do exactly what I say, Travis growled, shoving me toward the main room. Stand there. Look guilty. And when I call the cops, you keep your mouth shut. I let him shove me. I let him dig his fingers into my shoulder. It goes against every instinct trained into you at Quantico to let a target put hands on you. You want to strike, to neutralize. But I had learned something about men like Travis. A narcissist only reveals his secrets when he thinks he has total control. They need to feel like gods before they confess to being devils. If I fought back now, he would clam up. He would lawyer up. But if I let him win, if I let him believe he was the smartest man in the room, he would get sloppy. He would say things out loud that would bury him. So I slumped my shoulders. I let my eyes fill with fake tears. I touched the cold plastic of the wire taped to my chest, right under my heart. Okay, Travis, I whispered. Whatever you say. He smiled, a cruel, sharp thing. He thought he owned me. He didn't know he was already in the cage. He just hadn't heard the door lock yet. Back in the main room, the air had turned poisonous. The investors weren't drinking the wine anymore. The head investor, a man with a scar running through his eyebrow and a suit that cost more than my parents' house, stood up. He buttoned his jacket, a clear signal to his men. We're done here, Travis, he said, his voice low and bored. You're unstable. We're pulling the funding. Travis turned pale. If they walked out that door, he was a dead man walking. He needed a reason for the missing money, and he needed a victim to offer up right now. He needed to prove he was in control. No, wait. Travis shouted, grabbing my arm and yanking me into the center of the room. I told you I handled it. I caught the rat. He didn't just accuse me. He staged it. With a sleight of hand that was clumsy and desperate, he shoved a heavy vacuum-sealed bag into the front pocket of my hoodie. Then he immediately ripped it back out, holding it up like a trophy. Found it, he screamed, shaking the bag. It was filled with cash markers and white powder. She had it on her. She was trying to sneak out with the inventory. The room went silent. The investors paused. They weren't convinced, but they were watching. I looked at my mother, Cynthia. She was standing by the buffet table, clutching her pearls. This was the moment. This was the chance for her to step in, to say that her daughter wasn't a thief, to scream that Travis was lying. I looked at her, silently begging her to be a mother for once in her life. Cynthia stepped forward. Her eyes darted to the head investor, then to the expensive furniture, then to Travis. She did the math in a split second. If Travis went down, the money stopped. If the money stopped, her life was over. "Oh, Mara," she wailed, putting a hand to her chest. "It was a performance worthy of an Oscar. How could you? After everything we gave you? You shame us." She looked at the investors, tears streaming down her face. "I have no daughter. She's dead to me. Do whatever you have to do." The betrayal hit me harder than the pavement ever could. It wasn't just greed, it was survival. She was willing to feed me to the wolves to keep her heated floors. Travis saw he had the room back. He felt powerful. He dragged me toward the heavy iron wine rack near the exit, blocking the investor's path. He wasn't just detaining me, he was making me a human barricade. "I'm handling this," Travis announced, his chest puffed out. He pulled the handcuffs from his belt. "I'm calling Officer Miller. We're doing this by the book." He slapped the metal onto my wrist, threading the chain through the iron bars of the rack. The metal bit into my skin. He clicked it shut. "You sit there and think about what you did," he spat, spittle hitting my cheek. He pulled out his phone, his thumb hovering over the contact for his dirty cop. He smirked at me, thinking he had won. Thinking I was trapped. I leaned my head back against the cold bottles. My heart was breaking for the family I had just lost, but my mind was ice cold. "Go ahead, Travis," I thought. "Make the call." Travis pressed the speaker button on his phone and held it up like a holy relic. The dial tone echoed in the silent cellar, a rhythmic purr that sounded like a countdown. He looked at the head investor, grinning with a desperate, sweaty confidence. "Watch this," Travis said, his chest heaving. "One call. Problem solved." The line clicked open. "Miller," Travis barked, his voice booming off the concrete walls. "Bring the squad car around to the loading bay." I caught the rat. "She's cuffed and ready for transport. Make it quiet." I watched him. I watched the way his fingers dug into the phone case, the way he licked his lips, waiting for the validation that would save his life. He expected Miller, his pet detective, to say, "On my way, boss." He expected the script he had written in his head to play out perfectly. But the voice that came through the speaker wasn't Miller's gravelly drawl. It was crisp, calm, and utterly professional. "Miller can't come to the phone right now," the voice said. "He's currently in cuffs in the back of my surveillance van." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bones. Travis froze. His smile twitched, stuck halfway between arrogance and confusion. He looked at the phone as if it had just bitten him. "Who is this?" Travis demanded, his voice trembling. "Put Miller on." "This isn't funny. This is Assistant Special Agent in Charge Davies," the voice replied, the tone dropping a few degrees colder. "And you are broadcasting on a federal frequency." The head investor stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the stone floor. He knew. The men in the room knew instantly. The smell of a setup hit them all at once. Travis looked at me. For the first time all night, he didn't see the junkie sister. He didn't see the failure. He saw the way I was standing. I had stopped slouching. My shoulders were back. The tears were gone, replaced by a gaze that was bored and sharp. I leaned my head forward, speaking clearly toward the phone in his hand. "Asset secure, Davies," I said. My voice wasn't the whimpering rasp I'd used for hours. It was the voice that gave orders. "All targets are present. We have the principal and the financiers." Travis dropped the phone. It clattered onto the table, but the connection held. "Mara," he whispered. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything, Travis," I said, testing the strength of the handcuffs against the wine rack. "You did it all. You called us here. You handed us the evidence. You even called the cavalry for me." The investors were scrambling now, reaching for weapons, looking for a back exit that didn't exist. The panic in the room was palpable, a sharp metallic taste in the air. Travis backed away from me, shaking his head, his reality fracturing in real time. "No," he stammered. You're a mess. You're nobody." "You're talking to Senior Special Agent Vance," I corrected him. "And you have nowhere to go." I looked at the heavy steel doors of the wine cellar. "Davies," I said. "Breach." "Copy that," the voice on the phone said. "Breaching in 3, 2. Travis covered his ears. The investors ducked. My mother screamed. The sound of the breach was deafening, a synchronized explosion that blew the heavy cellar doors off their hinges. Dust and splinters rained down as black-clad figures swarmed into the room, their movements precise and terrifyingly fast. "Federal agents. Get down. Hands on your heads." It wasn't a fight. It was a takedown. The investors, men who thought they were untouchable, were on the floor in seconds, zip-tied and subdued. The air smelled of cordite and ozone. Travis didn't run. He couldn't. He stood frozen, his eyes darting around the room as his world collapsed. He saw the red laser dots dancing on his chest. He saw the badges. He saw the reality he had denied for so long. This is a mistake. Travis screamed, his voice shrill. He did this. She's the thief. Arrest her. He pointed a shaking finger at me, still chained to the wine rack. That junkie set me up. Check her pockets. The evidence is on her. The SWAT team leader, a man I had worked with on 3 continents, walked past Travis without even glancing at him. He holstered his weapon and approached me. Agent Vance, he said, his tone respectful. Apologies for the delay. Traffic. He pulled a key from his vest and unlocked the handcuffs. The metal fell away, clattering onto the stone floor. I rubbed my wrists, feeling the blood rush back into my hands. No apology necessary, Captain, I said. Asset containment was the priority. The team leader handed me my badge and sidearm, retrieved from the secure lockbox in the surveillance van. I clipped the badge to my belt and checked the weapon. The weight of it felt familiar, grounding. I turned to Travis. He was gaping at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish on a hook. Agent, he whispered. You're a clerk. I haven't been a clerk for 12 years, Travis, I said, my voice cutting through the noise of the arrests. I'm the lead investigator on the task force that just dismantled your entire operation. I walked over to the table where he had dropped the evidence bag, the one he had shoved into my pocket moments ago. I picked it up. You planted this on me because you thought I was weak, I said, holding the bag up. You thought I was a junkie who couldn't fight back. But this isn't just drugs, is it? I ripped the bag open. Inside, nestled among the cash markers, was a black, leather-bound ledger. It's the payout schedule, I said, opening it to a random page. Dates, amounts, names. Every dirty dollar you washed for the cartel. Verified by the digital clone I made of your server 3 days ago. Travis sank to his knees. The fight left him all at once. He looked small, pathetic, a child who had been caught playing with matches while the house burned down around him. I can fix this, he stammered, looking up at me with wet eyes. Mara, please. I'm your brother. Tell them it was a mistake. Tell them I was undercover. Undercover. I gave a sharp laugh. No, Travis, you weren't undercover. You were under surveillance. I nodded to the team leader. Get him out. As agents dragged Travis away, he screamed for Cynthia, then spotted the leather bag on the table. Mom. The bag, burn it. Destroy it. Cynthia lunged, snatched the evidence and threw it into the roaring fireplace. The leather caught fast. The pages curled, blackened, vanished. Travis cackled, triumphant. It's gone. You've got nothing. I stopped the team leader with a hand. Let it burn. Cynthia turned, soot on her dress, defiant. You have no proof. It's his word against yours. I didn't flinch. You think I brought the original ledger to a party? That was a $12 notebook, a decoy. His smile cracked. The real evidence isn't paper, I said. I cloned your server. Every transaction, email, and dirty dime is already in the DA cloud. Travis went limp. Then I faced Cynthia. And you just made the worst mistake of your life. I was protecting my family, she whispered. No. You were destroying evidence in a federal investigation, I said. And now you're in it. Under RICO, concealment makes you liable. And with civil asset forfeiture, the government assumes everything you own was bought with dirty money. It's my house, she choked. Not anymore, I said. You burned your bridge. Now you live in the ashes. He snapped, lunging at me, clawing for my badge. I moved first, took her down hard, pinned her to the stone. Cynthia Vance, stop resisting or you'll be charged with assaulting a federal officer. I'm your mother. And you tried to sell me for a paycheck, I whispered, locking real cuffs around her wrists. As they hauled them out, Travis didn't fight. Cynthia didn't beg for him. She screamed about her jewelry. I walked out into the night to the sound of sirens. Justice finally loud. 3 days later, the mansion didn't have a for sale sign. It had orange tape and a notice. Seized by the U.S. Marshals Service. Cynthia stood on the curb arguing for her pearls. Travis sat in a federal holding cell, bail denied, staring down 20 years to life. I looked at my old sedan, paid for with clean money, title in my name. Then I opened my contacts. Delete. Travis. Delete. That. Delete. Not a breakdown. A balance sheet correction. I drove off, toward a future that was quiet, honest, and mine. If you've ever had to be the villain in someone else's story just to save yourself, share this. You're not alone.